Problem 68 deals with parts per million concentration units. The maximum safe level of each metal in drinking water is given below, so copper, arsenic, chromium. Convert each value to parts per million. We're given the concentrations of these metals in micrograms per kilogram. Now, we need to convert these to ppm. ppm is parts solute per million parts solution, parts per million. And what it means, if you have a solution which is 1 ppm, that means there's 1 part solute for every million parts solution. So if it's ppm by mass, then it would be 1 gram of solute for every million grams of solution, or every 10 to the 6 grams of solution. So that's what ppm means, but a ppm is the same thing as a milligram per kilogram. That is also a milligram of solute over a kilogram of solution. That's 1 part for every million parts, because there's a million milligrams in a kilogram. So let's just take this right here, 1 gram of solute over a million grams of solution, and let's convert the upstairs unit and the downstairs unit. First, let's convert the upstairs unit to milligrams. We know that 1 gram of solute is the same thing as 1,000 milligrams of solute. So that changes the upstairs units to milligrams. And we know the grams of solution, it takes 1,000 grams of solution to equal 1 kilogram of solution. And that changes the downstairs unit to kilograms. And look what happens. The 10 to the power 6 is canceled, because you got 10 cubed and then 10 cubed. That multiplies to give you 10 to the power 6, so that number cancels. And then what you end up with is 1 ppm is the same thing as a milligram solute over per kilogram solution. So all we got to do, what I'm trying to say is, all we got to do is convert these to milligrams per kilogram. It's going to be a pretty simple conversion. They're already in micrograms per kilogram, so we just got to change micrograms to milligrams. Now, we know that, let's see, we know that 1 gram, here, let me just write this down. We know 1 gram is the same thing as 1,000, let me make a little bit more room, 1,000 10 cubed milligrams. And 1 gram is also the same thing as 1,000,000 micrograms. So we can say that 1,000 milligrams is the same thing as 1,000,000 micrograms, because they're both equal to a gram. And we can use this to convert from micrograms to milligrams. So if we're getting from micrograms to milligrams, if we're starting with the copper, 1,300 micrograms per kilogram, we write that down for copper. And we want to change this to milligrams per kilogram, because that's going to be ppm. So here's our starting concentration unit, and we just want to change the upstairs unit. We know that 10 to the 6 micrograms is the same thing as 10 to the cube milligrams. That's going to change the upstairs unit to milligrams. And now we're left with milligram per kilogram. And the calculation is pretty simple. 1,300 times 1,000 divided by 1,000,000 gives you 1.3. So you got 1.3 milligrams per kilogram, or 1.3 ppm. For arsenic, it's going to be a very similar calculation. It looks like the toxicity level is a little bit less. Arsenic is even more poisonous than copper. You can only have 10 micrograms per kilogram of drinking water. So starting with 10 micrograms per kilogram, doing the same steps again, get from micrograms to milligrams upstairs, and that leaves you milligrams per kilogram, or ppm. And the calculation, 10 times 1,000 divided by a million gives you 0.01 milligrams per kilogram, or 0.01 ppm. Chromium has a toxicity level between the previous two. You're allowed up to 100 micrograms per kilogram. So similarly, you do the calculation, 100 micrograms per kilogram, you get from micrograms to milligrams using this conversion factor that gets you milligrams per kilogram, or ppm. And the numbers, 100 times 1,000 divided by a million gives you 0.1 milligrams per kilogram, or 0.1 ppm.